Welcome to the first episode of the Hardwood Speaks podcast, where the game will always speak for itself. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you know me, you know how important this is to me. And if you don't know me and you clicked on this because it's something that interests you, please enjoy. That's the goal for you guys to enjoy the content that I put out. For this episode, I'm just going to go over myself. That way I can introduce myself to you. And now you guys are familiar with me. And then after that, I'm going to go over the Eastern Conference teams and the top storylines for each team as we've gone a couple days into the bubble. So that'll be the topic for today. We've seen some great team performances, some great individual performances. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, TJ Warren, to name a few. And so without further ado, my name is Ethan. I was born and raised in Orlando. So the NBA restart is happening in my backyard, basically, which is very exciting. And then, so my favorite team is the Orlando Magic, born and raised. I love the UCF Knights. I'm a Central Florida lifer. So UCF Knights, Orlando Magic, Orlando City, Tampa Bay Lightning, Tampa Bay Bucks, Tampa Bay Rays, the whole 9 yards. I love sports in general, so that's why I named all those teams. But basketball is number 0 for me. That takes priority. I love basketball so much, and it's so close to me. And I loved the game since I was 5 years old. So that's always exciting for me. My favorite player is Steph Curry. I just love the confidence and the way he carries himself on the basketball court and his ability to make his teammates better by just his presence. His greatness, I think, is delivered by his presence. And that's just something I love. I love players who like LeBron, Kawhi, Kevin Durant, Kobe, rest in peace. It's those type of players that I just love to see and that are iconic. They will forever be iconic in our eyes. So let's get started. First thing we're going to go over is the Washington Wizards. We're going to go from bottom to the top. That way, say the best for last type of thing. And so for the first thing we're going to go over is with Washington. They started off 0-3 here in the bubble. They're decimated with injuries. So the storyline for them, to me, is Rui Hachimura and his improvement and his ascension to be a complementary piece beside Bradley Beal and John Wall for next year. I think that's the most interesting thing to me. They've been decimated with injuries. It's tough for them to be competitive. They're 7.5 games back of Orlando for the 8th seed. And they got a Philadelphia, New Orleans, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, and then a Boston. That's their upcoming schedule. So they got a tough schedule ahead of them. They're not going to be. It doesn't look like they're going to be in contention. So it's just short and easy with that team. Same thing with Brooklyn, but they've been shocking us lately. They took a loss to the Orlando Magic, but they've gotten a win against Washington and a win against Milwaukee, which I understand Giannis and Chris Middleton, they didn't play for that half, for the second half. However, that's a win that we did not expect them to get. And in order to get into the playoffs, you got to be able to win games that you're not expected to win, really. Memphis has been doing that all year. That's why they're in the playoff mix, for one example. So they got a schedule with Boston, Sacramento. Then they play the Clippers, the Magic again, and then they play the Blazers to finish it off. I think if they can get another game, they could possibly make a run to, because for the Magic and the Nets, their goal is to not face the Bucks in the first round. That way, they don't get completely smacked out. So that's the goal for them. I think the storyline for them, same thing with Washington, is just to see the improvement of Karis LeVert. That's really the storyline for Brooklyn in terms of big picture. Small picture, it's, can they pull off another surprise tonight? They play Boston. Can they do another surprise tonight? We'll see. It's interesting. Them winning against Milwaukee has been it's delightful for me because it makes the NBA bubble restart more interesting than if they lost because Giannis dropped a triple-double or something. So next we got Orlando. This is my team. I'm going to try not to be biased. It's hard to be biased with this team, though. You gotta come to reality. They came into the bubble kind of hot. They got two convincing wins against Brooklyn and Sacramento, but the injury to Jonathan Isaac was devastating. I can say that as a Magic fan myself, and I'm wearing his jersey. It's tough for me to say that we can be as competitive as we were before he got injured. Then we got Toronto, Philadelphia, Boston. Then we could play Brooklyn again, and then New Orleans. So for me, I think the storyline for this team is to see what Aaron Gordon can do as the number one option on the perimeter. Can he be the guy that we can go to in crunch time situations? Can he be the guy that we depend on to be like, take us and get us wins that we're not really supposed to get? We took a loss to Indiana to bring us back to reality after 2 hot games against Brooklyn and Sacramento. But we got to get, for as a Magic fan, knowing what we got to get in order to avoid Milwaukee in the first round, we got to get one of Toronto, Philly, or Boston in order for us to really make a run, and to gain some confidence as well. Getting one of those games would gain some confidence because Toronto is healthy, Philadelphia is healthy for the most part, and so is Boston. So that we got to get one of those games for me to gain some confidence. And it's a game, again, like I talked about with Brooklyn, that'll be one of those games that we're not expected to get. And to move up in the playoffs, you got to be able to get one of those games. So yeah, that's with Orlando. Next team we got is Philadelphia. They are 6th right now. They're a game and a half back of Indiana for the 5th spot. They got Washington, Orlando, Portland, Phoenix, Toronto, and Houston. They're 1-1 to start the the restart of the bubble. So I'm very interested to see what this team can do, but I'm very disappointed because for them to be 6th, I was expecting them. I think most people were expecting them to be a top 4 team at least in the conference. But for them to be 6th is kind of just disappointing. So the storyline for them is, can they succeed in this environment, which is lesser than the home environment that they're used to, and that they look like world beaters in, where they're 29-2 at home, but it's also a little better than road environment where they're 10-24 and they look like a lottery team, unfortunately. So that is definitely tough for that team. It's frustrating to see Ben Simmons not assert himself and not attempt a 3-pointer, and it's frustrating to see Joel Embiid not give the effort on the defensive or the offensive, take plays off, really. We've always been frustrated with LeBron doing that. So for me, it's no different with Joel Embiid at all. So for me, it's just, can they succeed in this environment that's different from the environments that they're used to, where at home they were world beaters, and on the road where they were a pessimistic team. So that's the storyline for them. Hopefully they can get stuff together in this environment, but a loss to Indiana and allowing TJ Warren to drop 53. Credit to TJ Warren. Of course. But for them to allow him to drop 53 and then lose to Indiana, and then to be in a tight contest against San Antonio that they're definitely more talented than, it's tough to see. So next team we got is Indiana. I've mentioned him. 53 points, 34 points, and 32 points. That's the last 3 games for TJ Warren. And TJ Warren before, he had a 30-point game, and he's averaging a little bit over 19 points a game. So he's making Indiana look a lot more dangerous than they came into the bubble looking. Because we thought that, they're going to be dependent on Oladipo. How healthy is he going to be? Can he get back to what he was? Those were the questions we were asking. But now with TJ Warren, it kind of cushions that time. Like, Oladipo, you can take your time now. Like, you don't need to get you can take your time and get ready for the playoffs. Whereas if TJ Warren wasn't performing like this and they kind of needed these wins, Oladipo kind of needed to get together ASAP, as soon as possible. But TJ Warren is taking the pressure off and kind of providing a scoring spark that they are missing with Sabonis being out as well. So this is very exciting for me because now they look like they can be more competitive than they've been the last 2 years, where they've been getting swept by Boston last year, and then they didn't get swept the year before. They just got beat by LeBron. But for they're looking like there's someone they can give a Philadelphia team they just beat, or that they can give a Boston or a Miami team a run for their money. So this is exciting for sure. Next team we got is Boston. This, to me, if they're clicking defensively, they already got the confidence on the offensive end. They're top 5 offensively and they're top 5 defensively. So this is a team that they're clicking defensively, getting the stops that they need to with Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward. Offensively, I think they can get stuff figured out with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker to make a dangerous run. They could be dangerous in the playoffs. I think that this is a team that if they catch fire, that they can beat a Toronto and a Milwaukee team with fully healthy, really. That's just me. That's my opinion. I understand that they are right now 1-2. They're 1 win coming to Portland, but I think Miami is they're looking hot right now with Bam Adebayo coming into his own, and so yeah, Boston's sitting third, by the way. So I understand that Boston's sitting third. So I needed to do Miami, but it's okay. So yeah, they're 1-2. One loss coming to Milwaukee. Giannis was going nuts in that game. However, they got a win against the Blazers, and then they were competitive the entire game against Miami, in a game that they really probably shouldn't have been competitive in. Tatum had like 5 fouls going to the fourth quarter. Did you see that game? Like it was. If you're a Boston fan, you got to be encouraged because you didn't play that well, and still you only lost by 6. So this is a team that I think they get stuff together. I think they can beat a Milwaukee and a Toronto team that they have their stuff already figured out right now. So like I said, next team is Miami. For me, their storyline and the concern is the youth. The most experience they have on the team goes with Goran Dragic, Jimmy Butler, Myers Leonard, and Kelly Olynyk. You know, those are the guys that are the most experienced. They're a top 5 offensive team, but their defense is kind of struggling. Not struggling, but like they're 12th. So that's not struggling. That's just, it's kind of weird that they're that great offensively, but then defensively when they got Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, that they struggle. Not struggle, but like again, yeah. So for me, so it's the youth really. That's the concern and the storyline. You got Kendrick Nunn, who's a rookie. Tyler Hero's a rookie. Duncan Robinson, I feel like this will be his first playoff run. Bam Adebayo, this will be his first playoff run as a starting center. He played in the playoffs in 2018 against Philadelphia, but he was a backup to Hassan Whiteside at the time, I believe. So this is a whole new ball game for most of this Miami squad. So it's going to be interesting to see if this talent can get them, to the second round, where they could face a Milwaukee team that they've beaten twice, and I believe that they're the only team that they've beaten twice. They're the only team to beat Milwaukee more than once, multiple times this year. So that's encouraging to see if you're a Miami fan, but it's also you got to be concerned with the inexperience you have on the team in terms of playoff experience. So the next team we got is Toronto. To me, Nick Nurse is definitely, to me, it was the coach of the year. I understand Billy Donovan and Mike Budenholzer, they were the co-coaches of the year. I understand. But to me, Nick Nurse, for him to get these guys where they are, they're a top 5, top 3, they're top 2 actually. They're top 2 defensively. They're the second best defensive team. I believe they are 14th offensively, which is okay, but they can click offensively. They got shooters everywhere, so that's not really a concern for me. And it's not so their concern is not by the way they play. I really don't see really a concern. It's just more of like, is their talent gonna catch up to the way they play? Is like, are they going? Is there, because they have the talent with Siakam and Lowry, but they're also kind of old, really, with Gasol and Ibaka. These guys have been playing. They got a lot of experience, but it's experience that you don't want to hurt your chances of being successful in the playoffs. So this Toronto team, I love them. I'm very excited to see what they can do. Where like, even coming from a Magic fan who we play them today, and we got beat by them last year, and we haven't beat them this year. But Toronto's a hot team, and they're going to be a tough out for any team, and that's including Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, whoever they play. It's going to be a tough out because they're clicked on defense, and if they're clicked on defense, their defense creates their offense. And so it's going to be exciting to see what this team can do. And then the last team is the best team. It's Milwaukee. They got the best record in the league. They're 1-2, but I think the only concerning loss of the two was to Houston. That was a little tough, and it raises the concern that I had going into the bubble. Who are they going to go to down the stretch in crunch time in a close game? Because they're going to give it to Giannis. He just had the ball. He was given the ball, and he got stopped by Harden. No disrespect to Harden. Not saying that he's a bad defender, because he's a great low post defender now. But Giannis drove, and the defense collapsed. He made a kick out, and it was a turnover, a careless turnover. So it was a costly turnover, and it cost them the game, really. So for me, are they good? You got to give it to a guy. For me, in crunch time, you got to give it to a guy who you're not afraid to go to a line, because if the defense collapses and he draws contact, you got to be able to send a guy to the line who you know is reliable at the free throw line. So that's just me. And Giannis isn't that guy just yet. He's a great guy to get to the basket in the first 46 minutes, but in the last 2 minutes, usually the defense is going to collapse more often, and they're going to overreact. And you don't want Giannis overreacting to that overreaction. So that's a concern for me. They're great top to bottom. They're great in depth. They got the three-point shooting. They got the offense. They got the defense. The question is, who are they going to go to down the stretch? So that really runs it down for the Eastern Conference teams. We're going to go over the Boston Celtics real quick again. This is a team that I believe is, I've already mentioned it, they're the team that I think is the most dangerous, that they got everything clicking. So I'm just going to show you why. It has to do with the confidence of Jason Tatum and the intellectual mind of Brad Stevens. Because if you think about it, Red Auerbach, first we had Red Auerbach. Then we had Pat Riley. Then we had Phil Jackson. Then we had Pat Riley again in Miami. We had Greg Popovich, Doc Rivers. We always going to get that intellectual coach. Brad Stevens is the intellectual coach of our generation. I believe he's the best coach today, in my opinion. He's such a great coach. He gets them invested into the system. And if you got that mixed with the confidence of Jason Tatum, Brown, Kemba, and everyone on the team, it's going to go a long way, and here's why. So for the first play we got here, we got Jason Tatum. He's going to go ahead and get this screen from Enes Kanter. So he gets it. Instead of taking the screen, he goes away from the screen. And then he splits over, and now he draws a switch. And here, you got a small guy on you, okay? He got a bigger guy on him. Never mind. What are they saying? He's a smaller guy. Usually, if you're a smaller guy being defended by a taller guy, what you want to do is use your speed and get to the basket. But instead, his confidence is just so through the roof that he steps back and just raises up and cashes in a three. That is just absolutely confident, polished to get across the lane and then step back for a three over Zubac. And you see him here. He's outstretching his arm. And it's amazing to see. And then here you got Tatum. So here you got Tatum. First thing you notice, Marcus Smart, he noticed he was being guarded by Lou Will. Okay? That was the first thing he noticed. You don't need it. He knows he's more physical than Lou Williams. This is the intellectual stuff that Brad Stevens instills, and to think on the fly, to proactively be reactive in these situations. So he noticed that. He noticed three things. He noticed that. Then he noticed that he's definitely going to get a help from Montrezl Harrell. He knows he's going to get that. That's a given in this situation, as you can see. And then he notices that Marcus Morris, he's making a mistake defensively. He's sagging off of Gordon Hayward way too much. And he knows that if he drives, he's going to get the attention of Marcus Morris. So he does that. He drives in the paint, kick out, perfect pass, in rhythm, bottoms up for three. You got Marcus Smart, and in a post action, he can make this pass. He can make a pass. Jason Tatum notices that, and he notices that Kawhi Leonard is he's not focused on what's going to come to his right there to his right. So Jason Tatum calls for the screen. Marcus Smart notices this play being made. He throws it out. Kawhi is too late. Fake pass, no hesitation. Hits a big shot down the stretch. It's in regulation, so that's a big time shot, big time play. So it's these type of plays. I got the first one to show you that of the confidence of Jason Tatum. I did the second one to show you the on-the-fly thinking that Brad Stevens instills in his team. And then this last one kind of is a mix of both, where you got the confidence of Jason Tatum and the on-the-fly thinking of Marcus Smart that's infectious to Kemba, Daniel Tice, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward. Everyone is thinking on the fly. And I think you got that mixed with the confidence of the team offensively. It's just going to go a long way in the playoffs. So that's the episode today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening again. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And so tune in for the next episode where the game is always going to speak for itself.